let's go to the venting page. We're going to go over a little bit on our venting for our boilers, our equipment, why we vent, what we're doing, purpose of it. It's important, I think, right? Okay. All right, so venting, we're going to talk about your location, your size, your type. Why are we venting? Show of hand. Why would we vent a boiler or furnace? Some guys in here do furnaces, right? Why do we have to vent our boilers or furnaces? Who's got it? Come on. What are we venting? We're coming.
Oops.
Carbon monoxide.
Okay.
Get it out of the house.
Is that good or bad?
Bad.
All right. Okay. So the main reason, yes, we got to get all the bad byproducts of what we're burning out of the house, right? Okay. There's quite a few stories in the news all over the country of people passing away because of improper venting, or, somebody screwed up, fitting came apart. Somebody could have drilled through it. Somebody cut it, didn't put it back together, right? All sorts of different stuff. So can pass away. You can cause a lot of stuff, right? Okay. So now, where do we terminate our venting at? Because this is one I see a lot of the times that guys kind of screw up sometimes. So where do you want to usually terminate your venting at? What do you think?
Use roof if possible.
Okay. Roof is the best place to go, right? Get it up and out. Okay. Most houses have chimneys on them, right? Most buildings, you get flat roofs, you want to put them up out through the roof, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about the carbon monoxide then. Carbon monoxide is a bad byproduct of anything that's combustible. Okay, anybody want to go sit in your garage with the car running? If you do, we're going to talk after class. We'll help you out, right? Okay, but same concept, right? You can do it with a car because you've got a combustible engine. You're creating byproducts. You're creating the carbon monoxide. You're going to hurt somebody or hurt yourself, right? Okay, so what is carbon monoxide? It's often confused with CO2, carbon dioxide, right? But it's created from incomplete combustion. Do you think our boilers are can be completed? Complete combustion? Say that right? Think we can get 100% out of a gas appliance? Looking around? No. Shaking some head? No. Okay. Even though our boilers say 92%, 94, 96, whatever they say on the little tag there, right? Okay, we're really never going to be able to get to 100% combustion as of what we know of today. So you're always going to have some sort of a byproduct, right? You're always going to have something that's bad coming out of that combustion process, okay? And there's a lot of different things with the boilers we have today with our condensing boilers that we got to watch for, because you're always getting byproducts, right? So on the bottom of our condensing boilers, we got the P-trap that we catch all of the stuff coming out of the bottom of the boiler. You ever looked at one of those traps and they're black or brown or full of stuff, right? Okay, so we're getting dust, we're getting soot from the combustible materials. You're getting the byproducts of your flue gases, and you get that condensation. Okay, condensation is acidic, so that causes other problems that we got to deal with, right? Okay, anybody in here, do you guys deal with neutralizer kits? Do you know what a neutralizer kit is? Everybody familiar with those? Okay, these guys sell them, right? They'll introduce. They got a good product. I love the ones they got. Okay, but we should be, even on furnaces, we should be installing condensation neutralizer kits on our units, okay? Especially if you're going into cast iron piping, because cast iron is a metal, and what happens to metal with something that's acidic? It gets eaten, gets destroyed, okay? I actually had that happen in my personal home that I used to own years ago, and found a leak and ended up tearing everything up and had a 4-foot section of cast iron pipe that was completely gone. And it was because of the neutralizer, or the condensation from the furnace. I only had furnaces in that house, and just over the years, it ate all that away.
Yeah, it's actually a super common plumbing.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably top 20,
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. You walk into a mechanical room and you know the concrete around your floor drain, You ever wonder why it's always eaten up? Guess what that is? That's condensation from your appliances, because they always have you always put your drain there, right? But they run the pipe to like 3 or 4 inches away from it for some reason. And so it travels across the concrete and it makes a little pathway into the drain, right? Okay. So concrete and condensation don't get along as well. If you're doing septic tanks or at a house that has a septic tank, you better be putting a neutralizer kit on that on that system, because you'll kill the bacteria in the septic tank and you can cause problems with their septic system. Okay. So a lot of different things with taking these high efficiency products that we are installing, but there's a lot of these little small details that we need to be paying attention to. Okay? All right. So obviously carbon monoxide is tasteless, it's colorless, it's odorless, right? You can't smell it, but you can feel it if you're aware of what you're feeling, right? Okay, because it will make you nauseous, it could make you lightheaded, might cause some issues that way. So small doses, it can create some issues. What's up? Okay, it can make you feel sick, give you headaches, make you nauseous, make you breathless. But if you get long exposure to it, we all know that it could be a bad. Again, if you have some symptoms, we'll talk after class, right? Okay, but it could eventually cause death, right? Can hurt somebody. So here's a chart that just kind of shows you different parts per million is how they measure it. Anybody in here have a CO2 detector? Anybody use those? Okay. I got one of mine. Same thing, I got a pocket one, and then I have, who's familiar with a combustion analyzer? By show of hands, who knows those words? Okay, no? Combustion analyzer? Ever heard of that? A little bit? Okay, no? All right, we're going to talk about those too, because if you're going to be doing boilers, you kind of need a combustion analyzer. And again, another product that these guys have, and they offer a really good line of those type of products. So CO detectors, combustion analyzers, voltmeters, all sorts of good products. So UEI, if you're not familiar, or if you are familiar, UEI products, they make a really good line of products that we use for boilers. So, okay. So if you're going in, service guy, you're a good service guy. So if you're going to go into a system and you're trying to test stuff, it's always a good idea to have a CO2 detector on you before you walk into the building, right? So you want to make sure that it's zeroed. So as you walk in to do your service, it's something to check for and make sure that that might not be one of the issues, especially if you're talking to the homeowner or the property maintenance or whoever, and there's any talk of people not feeling well or headaches or something like that, then this is something that you definitely want to check out as you're doing your service calls.
Yeah, I actually just keep one in my van always, and I usually sell them, get them up. So
there you go. Okay. So the actual CO2 detector?
Permanent ones you just leave in the mechanical room. So
Okay.
it's a pretty good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
you make a little extra money and it's good for everybody. So, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
I thought I'm like a professional on it. Usually, I never thought about.
bringing it with me, but I'll probably start doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So just to make sure. Over this last winter, I had 2 different service calls that I personally went and did. One of them, general contractors remodeling the house. They're remodeling the upstairs. Okay, they did the basement last year. Now they're doing the upstairs. So the family moved from upstairs, moved downstairs. I get a service call because the boiler's not working. So I go in. The boiler had been in for, I think it was like 9 or 10 years or something now. Right, so it's an older boiler. Nobody's ever worked on it. Okay, it's a certain brand that's had a lot of issues over the years. We might know which one it was. Okay, but this particular boiler, the top plate of the heat exchanger only has 4 bolts that hold it on. Okay, now somewhere down the line, somebody had touched it because there's little studs, right, and then the nut sits on top. Well, somebody had broke one of them. So it was just sitting, they left it sitting on top of the plate, and then there was another one that was missing and was gone for good. When I got there, because it wasn't sandwiched onto the heat exchanger, just the combustion process and everything had broke the gasket to seal that top plate to the heat exchanger. So it was actually leaking flue gases out of the boiler into the mechanical room. So got my meter out and found out it was actually kicking out quite a bit of CO. And this family's been living in the basement for the last 6 or 8 months or something during this remodel, and it's in the middle of winter. So now you have to go to the homeowner, and I have to call the contractor, and it's like, hey, am I shutting the system down because this is not good for this family? No CO detector in the mechanical room. Yeah, they didn't have anything in there. So the general contractor ended up going and buying some CO detectors, and we put them in there to get through for a couple days, and then I went and gutted the whole entire room out and then rebuilt it. Okay? So it was actually the one picture I showed you, that before and after picture, it was that house. Okay? So these problems happen all the time. Went to another service call up in, I think, Mill Creek it was. Older lady got a call that the gas company had to come into the house. They shut the boiler down because it was the CO2 in the gas was like through the roof. They could smell gas everywhere. CO was really bad. I got there with my combustion analyzer and hooked it up, and it pegged it like that right off the bat. So come to find out is it had all sorts of other issues, but in low fire, the burner process was completely out of whack, and so it was producing like 20,000 parts per million of CO. So, I mean, it would seriously peg my meter as soon as I touch it. Okay, so, and then they had the venting, and I can't remember if I have the picture of this one, I'll show you, but the venting came through a grill from an old cast iron boiler that used to be there. So they just have this weird grill. They stuck it out the wall maybe 4 or 5 inches. Well, guess where the intake grill was? Right next to it. So the wind just happened to just blow it, and it just pushed it right back into the room. So 20,000 parts per million, which is not even on this chart, was coming right back into the mechanical room. And of course, it's in the basement of the house, and so it was just filling the basement up and went through everywhere else. Okay? So, and that was all due because somebody just didn't set the boiler up properly. In high fire, it was just fine. But in low fire, it was through the roof. It was crazy. So I spent 30, 40 minutes, dialed it back in on the low fire side, checked high fire side, had it good. Haven't had a call back.
As a tech, it's important to use the combustion
Right.
doing stuff just to make sure.
Right.
It's like ideally you should be like real low, right?
Right. So, yeah, so that's why I brought up who knows what a combustion analyzer is. Who knows what a manometer is? Okay, got manometers? Everybody using a manometer? Got some blank stares? No? Yes? Okay. Manometer is just testing gas pressures. You need to know what gas pressures are, both on furnaces and boilers, right? We got to check all that stuff. Voltmeters, who plays with voltmeters? Okay, we're plumbers. We hate electrical, right? Okay, just kidding. All right, so those are 3 good items or 3 tools that you should have that will help you out, especially if you're going to be doing service work. Okay, did a lot of tech calls when I worked with these guys over here. You'd get the calls in, and if you didn't have a combustion analyzer, a manometer, or a voltmeter, I really couldn't help you over the phone. I could play guessing games just as good as you could, right? But without knowing some numbers, it's hard for somebody to help troubleshoot a system with it, okay? So if you're going to call the manufacturer and you're expecting somebody to help, they're going to ask you some dumb questions that's going to piss you off, but they're going to ask those because they need to know a baseline. They need to know where to start. What are we looking for? Are we looking for a gas problem? Are we looking for a flow problem, venting problem, right? So they're going to ask you some dumb questions, so be patient when you first call. I know it's frustrating. I've been there. I've done that, okay? So, but as a guy on the other end of the phone trying to help you, we just got to ask some dumb questions so we can figure some stuff out, right? Okay? All right. Venting notes. So, couple things that you want to avoid when you're doing your installs is using an elbow directly off of the appliance, like right at first. Okay, you don't want to put like a street 90 inside your boiler top or your furnace top, if at all possible, because you're going to create some restriction. You're creating a heat point, a hot spot where that 90 is. Okay, so avoid using an elbow right off the bat. You want to try and do give or take 12 inches of piping off of the unit before you transition to a 90. Okay? Always try and use the long sweep 90s, we call them. Right? In plumbing, you can get short sweep 90s, but you want to do the longer 90s, better flow. Every time you put a 90 in, that counts as 5 feet of pipe. So when you read in your manufacturer's book for how much venting you can put in, let's say that venting of that boiler is 100 feet, you put a 50 elbows in that thing, well, you got a lot of pipe when just elbows, okay? So keep that in mind, that each 90, you always add about 5 feet. Each 45, you're going to add about 3 feet, okay? Just rough numbers. A lot of the manufacturers in the book will actually tell you what their equivalent footage is, if it's different than that, but usually those are good numbers you can go off of for anybody, okay? Now, can you run venting too short, do you think? Get some heads saying yeah. Okay. Have you ever seen what happens to an appliance if you run it too short? Not yet.
Airflow.
Okay. You could get airflow for, yeah, fault.
Heaters, there's like certain different kinds of screens you got to put in the end rail set.
Okay. Yep.
Trips that.
And if you don't, because you don't trip the air switch, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So exactly. So you if you go too short, you don't create enough back pressure in the system for it to actually work the fan, the blower motor properly. Okay. So you can go too short. Usually that rule, for what I've searched up on most boilers, I haven't looked at furnaces, but most boilers is give or take 12 feet. That's your minimum you want to run. Okay, so now it's going to include 90s and stuff too. I've had some, like you just mount the boiler on the wall and you're just going right up and out. Right, well, 190 and 2 other feet of pipe, but it's not meeting my 12 feet.
Okay.
So what I've done for those ones is go down a pipe size. So you come off the boiler, do a reducer, so go from 3 to 2 inch, and then go out, because now you're restricting, you're going smaller pipe size. Okay? If and when in doubt, always call either your rep or the manufacturer and make sure that's approved for you, because a lot of boiler manufacturers don't like you to downsize in pipe size. Okay? But I found that works in those type of scenarios. Okay? The next one, so I've got on here, make the intake and the exhaust equal in length if possible. This kind of contradicts a lot of your install manuals, because your install manual will tell you that you don't have to do that. I've just found in the field, being just from experience, that the boiler will work better if you equal those two out. Okay. Now I've done some applications where I've ran either straight through the roof or through the sidewall on the venting in the exhaust side and got it out. And then I've done room air combustion, right? I've done that before and it has worked. You got to make sure you dial the boiler in. But we've had some instances where we've done that and you get different pressure differences in the venting, right? Especially winds and where you're at altitude-wise. Altitude plays a big part in our boilers, okay? So I made that reference that if possible, try and make them give or take the same length, and then you equalize the pressure on both sides of your blower motor. Okay. What venting material is approved that we can use? What do we normally run around here?
PVC.
PVC. What the hell? You know it's not actually venting material. We all know that, right? So PVC is not a venting material. Even though the manufacturer's books, they say it and they have it in there, okay, technically from PVC, from them, it's not a venting material. There's some jurisdictions in the states and some states or cities that you cannot use PVC to vent your equipment, okay?
I don't know, can you give examples of which ones those are, just so you know, then whole thing and PVC, not that I would, but...
Like what manufacturer?
Which jurisdictions or whatever.
Oh, like New York City.
Yeah. Anything in Utah, like
Chicago.
inspectors or anything? Like
I haven't heard anybody in Utah yet. but there's been talks of rumors of PVC being taken off the list. So there's some manufacturers. So anybody familiar with the pictures that are up here? Anybody know what type of pipe? Ever used this type of pipe? You know what it is? Polypropylene or central therm? Used to do central therm, right?
No, we did Durban.
Or Durvent, yeah, sorry, Durvent. Okay. So there are approved manufacturers specific for venting material. Okay. There's one that's I've seen around, but I keep meaning to find the manufacturer, but it's black, and they're an approved venting manufacturer as well. But I keep forgetting to find out who it is. I don't know what their name is. But for around here, we can get Central Therm, polypropylene, and Duravent. I guess poly is Central Therm. So, but Duravent, used Duravent before too.
May I have something here?
Yeah.
Hold it.
So my background is legal. I was a lawyer before I started doing this. And one of the first things I did when I came back to this profession was help people understand this problem with PVC. And the way that this actually shakes out is that every boiler manual that is out there will say, they'll have a section in the manual that says this is how you install PVC if you're going to put PVC in. But somewhere at the front of the manual it says you have to comply with two things: National Fuel Gas Code and the authority having jurisdiction. The authority having jurisdiction often doesn't know, but they're a governmental actor, so if somebody sues them, they're out immediately. And the National Fuel Gas Code says you can't put PVC on a Category 4 appliance. But if a manufacturer is going to say that we'll take the liability and allow you to do that, the manufacturer has to tell you how to put the PVC in. So everybody has in their manual, this is how you put PVC into one of these appliances, just in case somebody, the AHJ or the manufacturer decides that they're going to take on the liability. But no manufacturer is taking on the liability because they've written it out in the first page of their manual. And again, the AHJ is governmental actor. They're out immediately. So if you put PVC into a Category 4 appliance and it fails, the liability rests with you because all the manuals and everything else says you shouldn't do that.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you know, is that same for like tankless water heaters and stuff like that too?
Yep, because they're all a Category 4 type appliance, yeah. So your new power vented water heaters, okay, furnaces, a lot of furnaces, all of that stuff now is all Category 4 appliances. So that applies to everybody. Okay, so it's something that most people don't know because we're just so used to putting PVC in, right? But that's what's stocked, that's what's available, that's what's around, everybody's doing it. So there's just one thing, a point I want to bring up is you may want to think about and you may want to start testing and getting familiar with products that are approved for our applications, okay? Because there are some specific manufacturers or some specific boilers out there that they won't let you do PVC, okay? They tell you in their manual that you void the warranty if you touch it with PVC. You have to use either polypropylene or stainless steel, okay, or CPVC, all right? So, and the problem with PVC that we're finding is, one, it can't handle the hot temperatures. So if you're putting in a boiler and you're doing domestic hot water heating, and so you're going to run higher temperatures, right? And our boiler's getting up to 180 degree water temperature. Well, now you're creating your flue to be 190 degrees, 200 degrees, give or take, whatever your differences are in your temperatures, right? So now your temperatures are too great for what PVC is made to handle, okay? You ever walk in and you see PVC and it's brown and it looks brittle-ish, right? You ever cut that apart and it's actual brittle? Okay. One of those symptoms is because of the temperature. The second one is actually because of the condensate that the boilers produce. PVC technically doesn't really handle condensate very well. Okay. So you get the high temperatures plus the acidic of the condensation and it breaks the PVC down, causes issues. Okay. So just some things to think about. We kind of talked about this one right here, the red. Can you decrease the venting size on an appliance?
Not general.
Okay. Generally, you're not supposed to. You can increase it, right, if you're going to run longer lengths. But like we talked, you can decrease but it should only be in certain instances as if you were doing short venting runs, okay? Now, if you're going to increase the size, where do you put the increaser of your pipe? If you're going to go from 3 to 4, do you put it on the vertical side of the piping or the horizontal side of the piping? Vertical side, right? Okay, because what happens if you put it on the horizontal side?
Water trap.
You create a water trap. You guys ever heard a boiler that's water plugged on the venting side? If it runs, okay? Because if you create a water dam, it won't run. Okay, I've had that too. Another example went into, which one was that? I think it was with you guys. Who was that?
Logan. At one.
One in Logan and one in Park City, wasn't it? It was one with Harris Dudley somewhere. They had, so the way they had to run the venting is it was in a crawl space, but they had to go up and it actually sloped backwards because they just didn't have the room and the height. But they ended up cutting in a T and they put in an extra condensate drain with a P-trap. And something happened with that P-trap and it plugged. And they couldn't figure out why the boiler wouldn't work. And so when we got there, we got it to fire for just a split second, and I heard the gurgle, right? It's a weird, funky sound if you've ever heard it. And so we started checking and following the pipe, and then we found that because this P-trap, they had it in a stupid spot, though, so you couldn't find it. So we finally found the trap. That thing drained for 5 minutes before it finally let loose and stopped the water flow, okay? So after that, boiler ran great, fired right back up. So, okay, be careful with bellies. Make sure you're strapping your pipe according to what we're supposed to be strapping pipe on your sizes and lengths and distances, right? Make sure you strap the pipe up correct. Be careful using plastic plumber's strap when doing venting, because I've had those break, and then it'll create a belly in your pipe, and that causes issues. I've seen that before too. Okay, so be careful with some of the clamping methods or the hanging methods that you guys use. All right, real quick. So category 1, 2, 3, and 4 is what Jared was bringing up. Okay, we are category 4 for the most part in what the boilers you guys are doing. A lot of furnaces you guys are doing, they're all a positive draft pressure vent system now. We're over here we go. So gas tight, water tight, condensate drained, vent system specific by manufacturer. So just quick little chart. We won't go too much over that. All right, so what are the 4 most common materials that you use for condensing boilers or power vented water heaters or furnaces? What are the most common venting materials you guys are going to use besides PVC? What else can we use? CPVC, okay. What else? Stainless steel, and I gave you the next one. Anybody use polypropylene in here yet? Central Therm?
Well, but
A little bit? Okay. You like it? Okay.
yeah, we did add trips.
Okay. Is it glued together? No. It's gasketed, right? Is it light? Very light, but it's like double the cost, triple the cost of PVC. It's like, what the heck? Okay. So polypropylene is a good system. It's easy to use. There's no glue. There's no primer. So you're not creating, you're not getting high while you're putting pipe together, unfortunately, right? For some of you. Okay. We like to use the glue and primer, right? It's always fun. But yeah, it's a glueless system. It's just gasket. Depending on the gas, there is a little bit of a grease. I'm not sure what type of, it's not a silicone. Is it more of a silicone grease?
Oh, no.
I can't remember. But yes. Okay. So let me go back. I think, where's that picture at? Yeah. So see the junction in the fitting? So there's a gasket inside that fitting. And then I don't think I have a picture, but most systems have a lock ring that goes in place too, and it locks those together after you fit them together, okay? So you got polypropylene, stainless steel, CPVC, and we do use PVC just because everybody does right now, okay? All right, we kind of talked about that already. What happens if we're too short or too long? So a couple pictures for you that came out of boiler manufacturers on different ways you can vent your boiler, your appliance, okay? Who likes to use the sidewall kits? Who does these guys right here? You guys like to use those ones? Okay. Now, are you doing that sidewall type kit, or do you do the bazooka type? You do both? You like those? You do a lot of sidewalls? Okay. Do you have any issues with those? That you know of? Okay. Be very careful using the sidewall kits, especially these ones, the old school little oval ones, because you can get recirc really, really easy with those kits. Okay. The bazooka style is a little bit harder when you're doing sidewall. I like these ones, but I like to use those when I go through the roof, okay, because it makes one penetration is clean.
In fact, to actually go in the recommend them give me those. Then about straight direct.
The oval one? I think they've, I think a lot of guys have kind of gone away from it. I know Well McLean used to ship those with their boilers back in the day, but I had a ton of stinking issues with those ones. So, yeah, you got to be careful with those ones. The method I prefer and I like is either this method or this method where they both go through the roof and you separate them, okay? So that's just what I prefer. I don't mind you got to be careful with going one sidewall and one through the roof, though, because you get those like the heavy winds we've been having the last couple of weeks. Well, if this wall is up against that wind, it's going to create that pressure difference in your boiler, and it could cause some issues. Okay, that's what I've seen in the past when we split them and do two different areas. That's when I've had that issue, okay? Your best bet really is just to do both of them up through the roof in the same spot, but obviously you got to have them separated. Your intake is always going to be candy caned, put bird screens in them. I just had one 2 weeks ago. Guy said his boiler wouldn't light. I pulled the intake assembly off of the fan, the blower motor, and dead little bird sitting in there. Okay, that stunk like it was bad too. Took me a while to clean that out. Okay, and it was funny because the guy, I kind of consulted for him. He did most of the install. I built the boiler system and did the boiler room, but he ran the venting, he ran thermostat wire, he did some stuff. And so I asked him, I'm like, well, where did you terminate your boiler flues at? And he's like, well, you just poke out the wall up on, he's got like this little deck or something, so they come out of the eave right there. I'm like, well, did you ever put the bird screens on there that I gave you? He says, no. Well, there you go. Okay. All right. Always follow local codes, manufacturer recommendations. Okay. Again, like Jared was pointing out, the book is going to tell you and give you all this information, but then they're also going to tell you, well, your local codes and everything need to be enforced as well. Okay. So make sure you guys stay up to date on those. So here's a couple pictures of you, or for you. Here's a good one. What do you see wrong with this picture? Who can point out the first one? What's wrong with this picture?
Where the termination.
Where the termination is? Okay, where? So what do you mean by that? Like,
You could push out to the end of the deck, correct?
okay, yep, because what's up above us? Nice, big, fancy redwood deck, right? Surprisingly, I don't remember how long ago I took this picture. This was up in Heber City, I think. But this system had actually been in for quite a number of years, and it didn't ruin the wood deck. I don't know how it didn't from the condensation, right? So you're underneath this deck. So you got to think, you're coming out of this deck, and all of that condensation, all that flue material is sitting right on that wood. Usually that gets rotted really quick. So whoever stained that, clear coated it, did a really good job. But what else do you notice about the picture?
Dog kennel.
You got a dog kennel right there next to it. Okay. Hopefully the dog was okay, but not sure. Now, the reason I was at this job is because the boiler wasn't working. Why do you think the boiler wasn't working? It's because it was recircing. You guys ever seen a boiler that recircs gas venting back into it? You ever seen what happens? What's the biggest thing you notice on a recirc boiler? If you're going to be a service guy, you'll need to know.
Especially during the winter time. Just winter, generate.
Okay, so the venturi, everybody know what a venturi is inside a boiler? but just the intake piece going into the blower motor. Okay, we call that a venturi. But it'll destroy that because it's plastic, right? Inside your combustion material, the exhaust gases, you've got soot, vapor, you've got condensation, and dirt and dust from outside coming back in, right? So you've got that water vapor in the combustion process that comes back in with that dirt and grime, and it gets stuck inside your PVC pipe or, your intake of the boiler. But it also just starts to rot away all of that plastic material that's inside your venturi, inside your boiler, okay? And it causes havoc on it. But then all of that dust and all that grime also goes into your burner, and then it starts to gunk up and sticks your burner, okay? So on a recirc boiler, you'll always notice it's kind of sticky and grimy. So if you ever touch it or try to wipe it with your finger, it's a nasty, and it doesn't come off your fingers very easy either, okay? So, but if you ever run into that, then you need to check the venting and figure out where the venting is, because you got a big issue, and it'll kill the boiler pretty quick, okay? What about this one? Who can point out what's wrong with this one? What do you see?
Shake up the exhaust. With the just silver taping or no old vent.
Yep. So this guy, if you want to know who it was, I'll tell you after. So this is another one I went on. I got a phone call. So I go walking into this one. This was a brand new boiler too. Okay, he'd only had it in for like 2 weeks. And I get a phone call, and that's what I walk into. So he replaced an old cast iron boiler, hung this one on the wall, taped it with duct tape, HVAC tape, to the old existing B vent going up and out. Now, can B vent handle condensation, water? No. Well, it might, but it's only going to do it for a minute, right? Maybe a couple days. Okay. So he has since fixed this one, but I thought that was a great picture. Okay. All right. I think that was just the same. Okay. What's wrong with this one? They went sidewall. That's fine, right? They put one up. What's wrong with the bottom pipe, though? Which one's the intake?
Just stops out to cover it.
Okay. Snow's starting to cover it. But, you can see it probably sucking it up, right? Might as well. Cold temperatures are better, right? Colder it is, the better your burner process is. Okay. So just some fun ones. What about this one?
Oh, boy.
That's great, too, right? How long do you think that pipe's going to last? Okay. Now, ultimately, what is going to be the issue here? What is going to happen if we left this like this? That pipe's going to corrode, and then which is going to go away. So now where is the venting going? It's going right inside the house. Okay? So whoever installed this, do you think they had the homeowners in mind when they were putting this stuff together? Do you think it ever dawned on them that this is going to go bad pretty quickly, and they're going to get a phone call from somebody, a lawyer, and they're going to be in big trouble because somebody probably passed away because of this? Okay? Okay. So, yeah, the other thing, right off of the unit with a 90.
You can, on that last slide, go back to the last slide. Bluff fetching.
Right there. Okay, yeah, this was the same thing too here, yeah. Okay. Now, this one actually had a whole bunch of issues. I've actually been to this job site quite a few times. Because he finally fixed the venting. And what he did is he took the exhaust side of it, he drilled a hole and poked it out through the sidewall. The problem is I can't remember, I think it's, so the intake, the old original intake came down through here, okay? He just broke the pipe, and this just goes right up, and whoever did the brick mason on it's a chimney that kind of goes up above that, there's slits in the chimney. Well, the problem is where he stuck the exhaust out now was like right underneath where those slits in the rock are. So he fixed his issue, but he created another issue, and we got recirc coming back in. So now, I need to get you an updated picture, but so now we took the intake and just snorkeled it down over here and it's just in the room. Unfortunately, with that particular boiler, it's loud as hell. Okay, so his mechanical room is very noisy, but he's used to it because he had an old cast iron boiler and it was noisy too, so he doesn't care. But I walk in there and I'm like, dude, this thing is loud. So it's just that particular boiler is a little loud. Okay, but same thing. If this got left with this homeowner, okay, it'd probably cause a lot of issues. We'd make them really sick, right? Okay. What else do I got? Oh, here you go. This is a fun one too. Can we use ABS for our venting material?
Outside.
You used to do ABS actually, but yeah, this one is outside. So you remember McLean used to let you do ABS? So yeah, I had a couple units we used to do ABS on. Doesn't last very long. Comes apart really easy. But yeah, that one was pretty fun. So you got a couple different intakes down here, and then they must have figured out they had a recirc issue. So, well, we'll just go up and out through the fence. Right? Good times. Okay. Oh, what was that one? Oh. All right. I got to switch. Wait a minute. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Any questions on your venting?
Let's open that parts per unit. That's failed 1,020.
Okay. So go back to that one. So you wrote 1,000 is fatal. It was kind of did as a trick question. Okay. Because could 30 parts per million kill you? Trick question. In brief, 5 minutes or whatever here or there, no, right? Okay, we can overcome that because we're probably exposed to carbon monoxide all the time, right? But if you're in a room that's leaking 30 parts per million and you're in there for a few hours, do you think something's going to happen? Okay, so you as a technician, because sometimes I've been in a boiler room and I've been down there for 2 or 3 hours, right? Trying to service it, trying to figure out what the hell's going on with it, right? Or doing the combustion process, and I'm fighting the combustion process. I can't get the thing to dial in and get to the numbers that the manufacturer told me to set it at. Okay? So when you're down in there and you're spending all this time, be mindful of how you feel. Okay? If it's a service job and it's an older job, you didn't do it, you're not familiar with it. If you notice yourself not feeling very well after a while, you need to check yourself and make sure, because that could be maybe you are sick, maybe you're having a bad day, but if there's a leak in the system and it's causing you to be sick, it's just something to be mindful of as you're being a service technician, okay? Because it has happened. Guys have passed away who have been a service tech trying to figure something out and didn't realize they're getting poisoned. And then because after a while, you get lightheaded. You kind of fall asleep in a sense, right? And somebody forgets you're down there. They might not come find you for a while, okay? So just some things to think about. So it's a kind of a trick question on that one. So, yeah.
Yeah, basically, I used to do, well, I worked at Snowbird, so they sent me to some pretty great commercial boiler trainings. And, like, basically, the first day on the commercial boiler training, they teach you on all the different ways you can,
Yeah.
because they are pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you got we're dealing with a lot of different things, right? Especially if we're getting into steam boilers. Okay, we talked about this one already a couple weeks ago, right? Steam, a lot of different things that go into those guys. I've personally never dealt with steam, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff we play with. It's not hard, it's not crazy technical science, right? But it's just things to be mindful of, okay? Because I mean, ultimately, you guys deal with people's lives. You're putting stuff in their house that could be an issue, okay? Stuff happens all the time. So the better you can be, the better you're installing your equipment, the more mindful you're being, the better off we'll help our customers and our clients, right?
Hey, James, real quickly, and tagging on to the manometer, using manometer, and especially on the bigger commercial equipment, when I first got into being a rep, I got called on a job in southern Utah. It was on the news, and water heater was installed on a school, And we had offered startup on that project, and unfortunately the district didn't take advantage of the startup. And what they ended up doing was putting propane on a natural gas unit, and it ended up exploding, and the vent stack blew out across the roof. And we went down to investigate. Well, it blew up the PVC or the CPVC piping, and all that carbon monoxide in the mechanical room seeped into the HVAC equipment. And then when the kids came to the school for that early morning breakfast, products of combustion was throughout the building. The kids ended up getting sick. Thank goodness nobody died. So that was a saving grace, but definitely we were called in to investigate. Lawyers and everything like that got involved, and yeah, so be careful when it comes to this. Get your manometer out, test equipment, even all the smaller stuff as we're talking about, but even on the bigger stuff as well. And if a manufacturer offers startup, take advantage of it. Right, Jared?
Good. All right. Did we get everything on our page then? Answered? Everybody good on that one? Okay.